the one and only podcast show. The one and only, spin the world on a dial. Lonely hearts gather, share thoughts for a while. The mic is the bridge, pays the toll, we all know. Welcome, the one and only podcast show.
I am who I am. I'm not perfect. I face things and I still do things sometimes that I'm not always proud of. But I don't shun myself for it. I just start to realize the pattern. And I start to ask myself, and I start to speak to myself differently. What if I'm not addicted? It's a program, like you do routines, and routines end up becoming, I guess, a metaphorical habit. You get addicted to the routine, to the cycle, and then our fear of the unknown sometimes holds us back because we want to do better and we want to do different things, but we fear anything other than what we know. It's not necessarily that we think we deserve it, but we just don't know any better. I don't tie myself to any linear way of thinking. Just the way it's supposed to be is the way that I do it, and I recommend you do the same. You can research, and even if you pull up what is fact, I feel that's all subjective to the individual. Because look at it here. You can try to teach me how to write all you want, but you're right-handed. Maybe I don't even have a right hand. So this is just like a little simple metaphor for the fact that your way is not always going to work my way. And I understand that my way doesn't always work your way. But the overall goal is the same, right? For us to be able to live, to thrive, and exist, to have freedom of thought, to question things, you know what I mean? Even ourselves.
They threw the riddle trying to box me in the frame. Said 6 eggs, boil 2, crack 2, what's the game? I'm like, hold up, wait, let me dismount from your basic math, your past tense account, cause you can't subtract me from what makes me whole. Got 6 in the carton, that's the sovereign soul. The boiled and the cracked, that's just history class. I stand in the statement, let the judgment pass. You want the math? I chose the grammar. It's a paradigm anagram.
Today, we're going on one of the most incredible journeys imaginable. Not to some distant star, but into the space between our own ears. A project between Harvard and Google has just given us a map of the human brain like we've never seen before, and it really makes you wonder. It's a wild thought, right? We've got these unbelievable telescopes that can see to the edge of the universe, but the thing sitting right inside our own skull is still, in many ways, a complete mystery. And the reason for that all comes down to scale. The real action in the brain, the stuff that makes us, happens at a level so tiny it's almost impossible to see. I mean, sure, we've all seen brain scans like MRIs, and they are amazing. They show us which big neighborhoods of the brain light up when we're happy or solving a puzzle. But what they can't do is show us the actual streets and houses. They can't see the individual wires, the synapses, where all the information is actually passed along. And that's where the code of consciousness is written. To actually read that code, you have to zoom in. I mean, way in. We're talking nanoscale. We need a map that shows every last wire and every single connection. And for that, you need a totally different kind of tool, an electron microscope, which lets us see things that are smaller than a wavelength of light. And that brings us to the H01 project. This was this massive effort to finally create that map. A team from Harvard and Google got their hands on a tiny piece of human brain tissue from the temporal cortex, and they set out to map every single thing inside of it. And when I say tiny, you won't believe how small it was. The whole sample was just 1 cubic millimeter. That is about the size of a single grain of sand. Now, it came from a patient who was having surgery for epilepsy, which is an important detail, but pathologists confirmed the tissue itself was structurally normal, which means this is the clearest, most detailed look we have ever had at our own wiring. Okay, so what's inside that grain of sand? Well, for starters, the team found over 57,000 individual cells. You've got your neurons, your glial support cells, blood vessels, the whole shebang. It's like a whole city packed into this microscopic space. Just let that sink in for a second. But here's the number that just blows my mind. The synapses, the connections. Inside that 1 cubic millimeter, they counted nearly 150 million of them. These are the little junctions that make the whole circuit work. 150 million connections in a piece of brain you could barely even see. So, what kind of hard drive do you need to store a map of a single grain of sand's worth of brain? Well, it turns out you need 1.4 petabytes. To give you some perspective, 1 petabyte is 1,000 terabytes. This data set 150 years, all for that one tiny speck of tissue. So the big question is, how on earth did they do it? I mean, creating this digital universe from a grain of sand was an unbelievable challenge. It took a mix of super precise biology, powerful microscopes, and just a massive amount of computing power. It was like trying to solve a puzzle with trillions of microscopic pieces. Here's the basic idea of how they pulled off this incredible feat. First, they took that tiny sample and sliced it into more than 5,000 slivers, each one thinner than a wavelength of light. Then a custom microscope took pictures of every single slice, creating millions of little image tiles. After that, some seriously powerful software had to stitch all those millions of images together into one solid 3D block. And then came the really amazing part. They unleashed AI algorithms to trace every single cell through that entire digital maze. And this slide just shows you how tricky that alignment step was. See the images on the left? That's the raw data. It's all shaky and misaligned, like a messy stack of photos. But on the right, after the software works its magic, you get this perfectly smooth, continuous block of tissue. Now just imagine doing that for 196 million pictures to build that final 1.4 petabyte model. It's just incredible. Now this is where the AI becomes the hero of the story. You see, trying to trace 57,000 cells by hand through thousands of images would be, well, it would be impossible. It would take centuries. So they used this clever AI called a flood-filling network. You can see it working here. The black and white image is the raw microscope data. And the colored parts are where the AI has automatically identified and filled in each cell, creating a perfect 3D model of everything inside. Okay, so building the map was a technological marvel. But the real excitement, the reason they did all this, is what they found inside. This map is so new and so detailed, it's already rewriting textbooks and showing us things we've never, ever seen before. Let's check out some of the highlights. So first off, just taking a basic count head of what's in there led to some big surprises. For one thing, the brain support cells, the glia, actually outnumber the neurons 2 to 1. And get this, the most common type of cell wasn't a neuron at all, but something called an oligodendroglade, which makes the insulation for the brain's wiring. Oh, and they also found a bunch of weird blobs that they couldn't identify at all. But then things got even weirder. Deep down in a part of the cortex called layer 6, they found these bizarre neurons. Take a look at the image here. They call them compass neurons. See how they each have one really big branch that points in one of two opposite directions? They form these perfectly mirrored groups. What are they for? Right now, nobody has a clue. This quote is pulled straight from the scientific paper, and it hints at what might be the most profound discovery of all. The scientists started noticing that some of the connections in the brain didn't look random at all. They looked like they were there on purpose. And this is exactly what they meant. So most neurons connect to each other with maybe 1 or 2 synapses. It's a pretty weak link. But the team found these rare, incredibly powerful connections. Check out the image here. You can see a single axon reaching out and making 53 separate connections to one single partner neuron. The odds of that happening by chance are basically 0. It suggests the brain isn't just a random web, it's deliberately forging these super connections between specific partners. So after years and years of work, this first incredible exploration is done. But here's the best part. This isn't the end of the story. It's really just the beginning. Because the team behind this map didn't just publish their findings and call it a day. They did something much, much bigger. They've made the entire thing, all 1.4 petabytes of it, totally free and available for anyone in the world to explore online. They even built tools so you can fly through it yourself. This isn't just a research paper, it's a new atlas for neuroscience. It's a gift to science that's probably going to lead to discoveries for decades. And that just leaves us with this final, kind of humbling thought. This entire journey, all of these wild discoveries, came from a piece of our brain no bigger than a pinhead. So it just makes you wonder, what other beautiful, bizarre, and unimaginable secrets are hiding in the billions of other millimeters that make up the rest of the human brain?
The womb versus the wrench, breaking cycles. The womb says, you didn't become a bad dad just because yours wasn't there. You didn't become a bad dad because yours wasn't there. That That act was your miracle. I mean, think about it. Oh, then the wrench says, it's not a miracle, right? It's not, it's a choice. It wasn't my choice. Every day, a stubborn, foolish choice to be different, right? The womb. Why diminish it? Why, wrench? Because it should be normal. That's the point. Making it so others don't have to be heroes just to be decent parents. Set our let me reword that. Because it should be normal. That's the point. It makes it so others don't have to be heroes just to be decent parents. Thank you. The 33rd fear. Oh man. The 33rd president. Right. Turning 33 this year on 1/24. I'm living in the backyard of the 33rd president. Carries a weight of attaining a peak. In many traditions, 33 represents the completion of a cycle or full mastery of one's path. Confirmation. You see, the fact that Truman, a man deeply, immersed in the 33rd degree symbolism, Masonic, it's interesting, governed from the very soil that I stand on here. A direct link between my personal timeline and governed powers of state. Maybe you too. It's not just me. I mean, this whole thing's a living rock. We're all placed in these significant places for a reason. When you write, you are literally rebranding and regrading your DNA. Every verse, every psalm, every rant ever pinned to a pad that wasn't content, that was cellular repair. Writing is the soul, and it's how it emails itself new instruction. We're not dying like this. We're not staying coded like this. We're updating the arithmetic, the elements. You realize your body is made up of elements, the same table they use in labs. I mean, think about it. They're sitting there in bloodstream like a quiet choir. Cross those elements with breath, intention, attention, and you get a crucible. The cross isn't just wood and nails. It's the intersection of thought, emotion, body, spirit. When those four align, you activate more than two strands of DNA. You start lighting up. Sometimes you got to change even the way you talk because the words manifest. Words have power. That's why we spell words. That's why they are a spell. Yeah. And notice it's called tell a vision because the words you spell, you then have a cast and a bunch of viewers so you can broadcast through television.
Electricity, negative vibes, no plans, no efficiency. Used to grind sharp, now it's dull. Deliberately treating this like a mirror. Myself in reflection, not to call you fake, flawed or misdirected. Loss of pleroma, diplomas in hand, but wisdom ain't printed. It bleeds where you stand. The ceremony of shadows, we dance in the shade, seeking truth in the ruins where the whispers degrade. Anxiety spreads like fire with no water. Fuel for the chaos, no solutions offered. Diligence, a relic, deliberate decay. The effort feels distant, lost along the way. Wanna be heard, not the voice, but the rate, the pulse of the word, the path it creates. I wanna be heard, not the sound, but the quake. Feel the meaning in your bones till the silence breaks. Carnage, one only, I am not just one.
And then our fear of the unknown sometimes holds us back because we want to do better and we want to do different things, but we fear anything other than what we know. It's not necessarily that we think we deserve it, but we just don't know any better. So it's scary, to take that step forward and find out if the rock's going to hold you. You know what I mean? But we're walking on water. If you go stiff, you're going to sink. You let the water hold you. You have trust. It's not even faith, it's a knowing. Because faith would require the assumption that you don't already know. It's just reaffirming it. Before you were ever named, ADHD, autism, anxiety, they aren't dysfunctions or disorders. They're not glitches. Satellite dishes. In a word satellite dishes in a world full of bunny ear antennas. And the weird part about it is the dish gets punished for picking up more channels. Chapter 1 of my book exposes the legal fiction, right? Now, Chapter 2 addresses the emotional fiction. We address the fiction that allows you to believe that you ever belonged in the cage. It's not the judge this time. It's not the cop. It's not the bank. It's that voice in your head that says, you're not enough. Or it's too much. You're not deserving. That you are special, but not in a way that's beneficial. I know.
So I know that mirror perspective is important, especially when reflecting back at someone that I see in my shoes of a past life that I'm familiar with. That pain, that confusion, that loneliness, or even the arrogance. I'm not going to repeat that same fucking arrogance. I'm not smarter than anybody. You know what I know? I know that I don't know what is going to happen next. I can predict, I can create in my 7-day chamber, and then at the end I can sit perfect with that confidence that I know what I made is perfect. That's an affirmation. That is the imagination's pantheon. That is you being the reflection of God.
O thou, affliction masked in longing's guise. The lost did wander, not to flee thy chain. Not to the poison, nay, I pledge my breath, but to the bloom that breaks the soil of death. I am not bound to illusion's snare, but to the stem that dares erupt from there. Addiction, refined, not cast to the pyre, but ritualized as sovereign, sacred fire.
That's just cause every flaw I flip to a flex, every slip I stitch in a text. Polaris pageant dress, spinning in a spiral. I confess, give a language a list, let it twist, let it hiss. I go best quality blitz, big beat as it hits, rap hands when it kicks. We march through the mix.
Today we're diving into the so serious realm of spiritual guidance. Yes, my collar is ripped. No need for explanation. That's right. You heard it right. You heard it right here. I mean, what better way to spend your life than helping others find their inner peace? That's a melody I could rap to. Alright, let's talk about it. First, we have Module 1, the Spiritual Guide's Inner Work. I mean, who else shall we go to? All by myself, ain't gotta be all by myself. Anyways, mighty more Power Rangers and shit. Because before you can help others, you gotta figure out your own fucking mess. Ego is the ultimate weapon. The system cannot defeat the light, so it tells you, the sun, to dim its light in the middle of the day. A spiritual narrative that equates humility with diminishment, denying your own power, and equates owning your youth or your own truth with egoism, pride, the sovereign truth. True humility is a state of non-resistance to a grand organized design. It is the confident, quiet vessel, simply receiving. When you are the door, the floor, the grass, the love, armor, God's armor, love, the concept of aloneness just kind of dissolves because you are consciously merged with the entirety of the grand organized design. You are what you choose to name, and if you don't name it, then it doesn't have to be anything. You are the nothing that was there and came into this world. That's the name that you had. So the nothing is what created everything. Think about it. It's exactly how it's described in the Bible. So we break down these ideas of what society projected us to be when we go in and we do this work. When we ask ourselves, like what makes us feel this way, or what programming did I watch, or what subtle, like, oh, you're just like your dad, boys will be boys, all these things, like mother like daughter. These are just examples, but it seems silly, but we don't realize that until we get older.